got some additions here. Anybody have anything before? Okay. J2, we're going to end Mary Saunier. J3, housing. J4, town crier. Town crier. Yeah. All short. If nothing else, can we have
From housing?
Yeah, J3's housing. Well, J2 Mary, J3 housing, J4 town crier. Anything else? We have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Over here.
Any combination's good.
Okay. And all those in favor? Aye. Nay? None. So I warned Leslie guys. So tonight, delegation presentations. We have Aaron Kelly here from Grant Thornton, 68 Water Street. We used to work there at 68 Water Street. I'm not sure where you're working now.
Work on the Ridge Road, thank you.
Road, yeah. Make a presentation on the budget. The budget committee has met. I think actually some of you actually did come in and sit down and take some of it in, which is good. So, the audit committee, yeah, sorry. Budget's always on one line. So Aaron, the floor is yours.
Okay. So as Ben said, the detailed presentation of this was given to the audit committee 2 weeks ago. So this is going to be a high-level refresher. Try not to make it take an hour. So I'm just going to go over the independent auditor's report. So the first paragraph is the opinion. It's the important part. So we have audited the financial statements of the town, which comprises the statement of financial position at March 31st, 2021, and the consolidated statements of operations, changes in net assets, and cash flows. In our opinion, the accompanying statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the town. So, clean audit opinion, that's what you pay for, that's what we want to see. The basis for our opinion, so we have conducted our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. So, every audit that we do has a process that it flows through, and we tailor it to different organizations depending on their needs and their risks, but there is a standard format that we have to follow. We are independent of the town in accordance with all ethical requirements related, and we have filled our responsibilities in determining our opinion. We believe the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. There's an other matter paragraph, so pages 8 to 14 are there for additional information. They're not required by your accounting standard, but it does give some extra detail. So they're not fully subjected to auditing processes, but just to whatever extent we need to cover everything else. So that's just a disclosure. Responsibilities of management. So management here is Tom and Matt, and then those charged with governance is council. So management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these statements in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards, and for such internal controls as they deem necessary to ensure the preparation are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the town's ability to continue as a going concern. So going concern is basically a 12-month horizon. Are you still going to be here? And they have to disclose whether the town has to cease operations or has no realistic alternative but to do so. Those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the town's financial reporting process. Auditors' responsibilities. So our objective as auditors is to obtain reasonable assurance. Reasonable assurance is a high level of assurance, but it's not a guarantee. We don't audit every single transaction. We do this on a sample base, and we spend our time in the highest risk areas. But we have done enough work that we feel we have enough assurance that we can issue our opinion. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error, are considered material. If individually or in aggregate, they could reasonably be expected to influence the decisions of users. So basically, could there be a $10 mistake in here? Yes, because reasonably that won't affect somebody. Is there a $1 million mistake in here? No. Unless people are colluding, in which case our audit procedures are not going to find it. That's more or less what that means. Other things we're responsible for is identifying and assess risks. So as I mentioned before, we kind of assess the operations of the town, where we think the highest area of risk is, and that's where we focus more of our attention. We have to obtain an understanding of internal controls, so there's a whole bunch of processes that you guys have in place, and we have to update our understanding every year of how they're going. Are they properly in place? Is there new things added? And then as part of the audit committee, we do present some communication on that. We don't audit them, but we do make comments every year. We evaluate the appropriateness of your accounting policies and the reasonableness of your estimates. We also conclude on the appropriateness of the management's use of going concern. So we didn't find anything that would lead us to believe you won't be here in 12 months. And we evaluate the overall presentation of the financial statements. And the last bit of our responsibility is we communicate with those charged with governance. So that's twofold, the audit committee and then this final presentation. So page 4 is the statement of operations, or your income statement. So this is a condensed version in the categories, and as you can see, it indicates the various pages on 8 through 14 where the details are. So I'm just going to go through this on a high level. Overall revenue this year is $5.437 million. So you're up about $160,000 over last year. And if we look at taxes, taxes are up $90,000 over last year. And that kind of falls into two areas. Overall, the assessment values have gone up a little bit. We saw a bump in commercial taxes because the Pines switched from a government grant in lieu property to a commercial property that's assessed tax. So we saw an uptick there. And then obviously deed transfer, I know that was a big question mark, but we have seen an uptick there, and we'll see another big uptick there next year as a result of COVID. And then as a net against tax, your appropriation to the school board it's a reduction of revenue and not an expense, so that's included in there as well. And then grants in lieu of taxes, we see a significant drop in there. And as I said, the Pines in previous years, you had a $156,000 grant in lieu for the Pines property, so obviously that comes out and then it's taxed on its assessable value up in tax revenue. Services provided to other governments is up. The major change in there is you bill the municipality for capital projects that you're joint on, so there was an extra $125,000 in there related to Forest Main was a major one and some other projects, and that's why you're so far off budget, because those items aren't usually budgeted for. So that's why we see a big uptick there. Sales of service, not much going on there. Other revenue from owned sources. The major drop there is obviously your return on investment. So you had your interest rates were down, receivables were down, so we saw a big loss there. Overall, $20,000 is not a big loss, but that's where the movement is. Conditional transfers. So the major conditional transfers jumps up quite a bit because we have safe restart money. So that's the money that the feds in the province threw at you based on a survey of how could they help you with COVID. So overall, you received $165,000 in funding of that, but you're only able to find room for $28,000 that could be taken into revenue this year. So we've deferred $136,000, and then there's still a question mark of whether there'll be buckets you can spend that on in 2022, or if it will have to get paid back, or the terms will be changed over the course of the program. So then we had metered rates, so there was a slight decrease in the rates. Your water is on a break even. The rates are a little higher last year than they should have been, so we see a reduction this year. Again, interest, same problem. Your interim bills weren't actually due until August rather than in May as they normally would be, so we saw some extra timing there. Federal gas tax funding is down. There was a double gas tax payment in 2020. Actually, it's not. So we refer to that as gas tax, but that's not actually what the program's called. It's the Building Canada Fund or something, but everybody calls it gas tax. Grants for capital projects. So that's a significant jump. So basically we have $376,000 of the Investing in Canadian Infrastructure program for sewer upgrades. Last year there was $40,000 related to that program. You also got $7,000 from the province for beautification and another $20,000 for accessibility projects from the province. So that basically is your fluctuations in revenues. On the expenditure side of things, general government's about the same. Some things went down. other things went up. There was more money spent on, you had some salary increases in administration, your defined benefit pension had a extra expense. There was COVID costs for PPE and different items, but then that's all offset. Grants to organizations was down about $20,000 from last year. That's majorly coming from your festivals not running, Wharf Rat and things like that. So some things are up, some things are down, but more or less stayed the same. Protective services, not a lot going on there. Obviously, RCMP contract makes up the vast majority of that, $865,000. Interest actually is part of the reason it's gone up, because the fire truck debenture is included in that you purchased last year. So this is the first year there was interest, so there was $16,000 of interest on that. So again, up a little bit, down a little bit, which also the new fire truck, you had depreciation this year where there was none last year. So nothing significant. Transportation, wasn't a whole lot of variation there either. It's down $60,000, but again, it's roads and streets. Basically, there's $10,000 less spent on salt. There's $10,000 less on fuel. Obviously, fuel prices were down, but there's kind of been a concerted effort in Public Works for salt management and vehicle management, being as efficient as possible. There's $7,000 less in just overall street maintenance. And then wages and benefits. So your Public Works wages can be spread amongst several of these categories. So this year there was $27,000 less allocated to transportation, but again, that just depends on where they work in any given year. Environmental health, very similar to last year. Public health, that's the deficit of the housing authority, so that is down. That's up a bit, but again, you have no control over that. They just send you the bill and say this is what's required for your area. Environmental development is down. The major item there is that the Tourist Bureau did not operate in 2020, so you save $65,000 there. Rec and culture, basically the same. Not a whole lot of activity there. A little bit is up, a little bit down. The only item that fluctuated in that is the library. So the library was behind in billing on the rent. It was about 18 months behind, and then there's question whether that was collectible, so that was written off a little bit last year. Then the bill finally showed up, and so Matthew, you paid the bill and then set up a new accrual and whatnot. So that's why we see a $13,000 bump. That'll hopefully level off, and hopefully at some point they start billing you with regularity. Source of supply, repairs and maintenance varies every year, and then the rest of the items don't have a whole lot going on. I mean, in general, yeah, no, that's all basically the same. So overall, you have expenses $4,729,000. So that's a $140,000 decrease from last year. That gives us an annual surplus of $708,000, almost double what it was last year, and gives us an ending accumulated surplus of $16,442,000. So we move over to page 5, our statement of financial position, or our balance sheet. So cash and cash equivalents, basically the same as last year. Cash held in reserve, only a slight change, $80,000. Receivables is up about $270,000. So in that, it's the timing of your trade receivables, but basically there's $172,000 of revenue that was accrued on that investing in Canadian infrastructure program. So there was $40,000 in there last year, so we see a $132,000 increase. There's a $126,000 increase in the receivable from the municipality of Digby. Again, that relates to the sewer projects that I referenced in the revenue side. And then also there's a $28,000 loan receivable from Dark as you're financing internally the purchase of their truck. So those are the major additions. And then just your regular everyday receivables, there wasn't a whole lot of fluctuation there. Liabilities, so you have tax sale surplus, so that's the 20 years properties that you sold at tax sale, and you have to hold the funds for 20 years before you carry it over. Payables and accruals are up $150,000. So again, that's the timing of the trade payables, depending on when bills are paid. We have a $52,000 accrual for library rent. It was only $18,000 last year, so that's a $30,000 increase. And then we have a $23,000 accrual to the Jordantown Acaciaville Conway Betterment Association. That's up. You've allotted them $11,600 a year, so now we're in year 2 of that funding being accrued. And then also in there's $96,000 of customer deposits for taxes and water that we see sitting there. Then we have the accrued pension fund liabilities. That's your former clerk. The fund is in a deficit position of $50,000. Based on what the actuary is saying, that plan's basically tapped dry, so we can expect to see significant contributions required for the duration of that policy. Deferred revenue, $136,000. So that's the remainder of the Safe Restart money that you have, that you received, that you didn't take into income this year. And then long-term debt, $1.773 million. So that represents the principal payments that you made this year. One loan was paid off, and another loan is going to be maturing in 2022. Tangible capital assets for the general fund. So we had $1.3 million in purchases this year. So the Force Main project was $260,000. 2 lift stations for $500,000. There's $300,000 spent on sidewalks and paving, $26,000 for accessible washrooms at the fire hall, and $35,000 spent on improvements to the old information center building on Shore Road. Then against that, we had amortization this year of $650,000. That's why we see our $600,000 increase there. Then on the water side of things, there was $110,000 of additions this year. There was $50,000 spent on a water main extension and $37,000 on some curbs. Then again, we had $150,000 of amortization. That gives us our $40,000 decrease. And then some small change in prepaid expenses and then inventory. So that gives us an accumulated surplus of $16,442,000, and that ties nicely back to the first page. So as we've always mentioned, anybody that's heard this speech before, so it does say that your accumulated surplus is $16,442,000, but as you look at your non-financial assets, you have $14.7 million basically worth of things that you use to run the town and not easily converted. So the number looks really good. You're in a strong financial position, but obviously we all know 1 or 2 sewer projects can burn that up really quick. So that is the 2 main important pages. Page 6 is the change in net financial assets. That just shows how we get from our opening financial asset position to our ending. Then we have our statement of cash flows on page 7. That just shows how we got from opening cash to ending, your surplus, your changes in non-cash working items, any investing activities and financing activities. And then anything beyond that is just notes to the financial statements. We've gone all through those in detail, so I won't do that again. Any questions or concerns on that? That basically summarizes the brief version.
For a town, we're healthy right at the moment.
Yeah, I would say, given the have the Pine situation.
Yeah.
And
Our equalization grant's been doubled. The elected party came through on the promise and doubled that for this year.
Yep.
Yeah.
They doubled the pot.
The pot, yeah.
What that actually means for individuals, I'm not sure what it is actually.
They did give us a number.
Did they give you a
You
number?
got a number now?
Yeah. It's the same as last year's. It'd be it's gonna be a new number and then the same as last year's.
Okay. Which covers, makes up for a lot of things they haven't paid for the last few years. Any questions, comments? Anything in there that you want to know about? This is the time. He's billing us for this time, so let's use it. Or is this, no, this is just part of the...
the bill's already been set.
Oh, the bill's already, okay, good.
If you read the documents you were presented 2 weeks ago.
Well, I did, actually. I told you to make the print a little bigger now. I did read through them.
That's why you got it electronically, so you can make it as big as you want.
That's what I just did here. Yeah. I expanded it. No, but thank you very much. You have any comments? It is what it is.
Yeah, no,
Last year was a tough year, but at the same time, we didn't spend a lot of money, so we put a lot of money back into the bank, so.
yeah, I think, overall, as a position of a town, a lot of places are struggling. You guys seem to be holding the fort pretty well, but again, that's obviously dependent on one big capital project can torpedo anything, but in the grand scheme, I think things are going all right. I think we were definitely concerned of what COVID could do to you, but I think in the end, for a lot of places, they found it to be a bit of a boon, really, like government money coming out, expenditures going down, so it's definitely helped out a lot of places. I know if you're able to keep that safe restart money, I think, you're hoping they'll either let you redirect it or do something else. That's a nice little chunk of change that's sitting there. I mean, in terms of an audit process, we have a good relationship with the town and the staff. Things go pretty smoothly, so we have every year is a bit different, and COVID, doing things virtually, remotely as much as possible presented some challenges, but I think we've adapted and everybody's used to it. So it's things are what they are for now, I'd say. But yeah, no, it's
I've looked at towns like town of Antigonish, jealous because they have a university there, but the town of Antigonish and the county are talking amalgamation because the town of Antigonish has no room for growth. Fortunately, we have on our doorstep potentially a large development, so this is going to help us out, so.
Just want to correct that comment I made on equalization. Sorry, I was thinking about gas tax. No, I don't have an exact figure, but we do have a doubling of gas tax occurring again.
Yeah. I guess I'm just throwing out there that they committed to doubling the pot of money that goes for equalization. What that means for each end of it may vary, like depending on the funding formulas. So we're hopeful that we're going to get double.
And not double bills.
So, yeah.
Okay, if there's no questions, so out of the audit committee was a recommendation to council here for approval of the consolidated financial statements for the year. And someone want to make that a motion? March 31st?
I'll make the motions. I think we made it because we're falling asleep, but.
Yeah.
It would have gone even longer if there wasn't committee of the whole stacked behind it. Well, Gloria looked over her shoulder and saw people and what's going on, so we had to cut things off.
Second to that motion?
Second.
So is there any further comments or questions on the audit, the statement? No. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion's carried, so.
Wonderful.
Very good. So we'll get those copies signed and off to you.
Yeah.
Good.
I'll await them with bated breath.
Okay. Yeah, well, you can stay here till the end of the council meeting, we'll hand it to you. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Okay, moving on to the previous meeting, September the 7th. Everybody went through those, errors and omissions noted. No questions, can we have a recommendation to approve those, or a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve.
Councilor Sommier, seconder?
Second.
All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Nays, none. September the 13th, special council meeting. Same thing, can we have a motion to approve those?
Motion to approve.
Seconder?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of that motion? Aye. Nays, none. Okay, unfinished business. Municipality of Digby Town and Digby Accessibility Committee, we have an addendum to that too here, Tom. Talk about that?
I guess basically, when the terms of reference had to be amended for the membership, to reduce the membership, because we're having issues with even citizen members. And anyway, when we were doing the research and that about the appointments and what we need to rescind and what we didn't need to rescind, we found that although council discussed the terms of reference, there was never an official motion that adopted the terms of reference. So that's going to be the first motion of tonight. Under this thing is the adoption of the terms of reference. And this terms of reference are the amended ones, okay?
Everybody had to look at those new terms of reference, the amended ones. We're all satisfied with those?
I just have a couple questions.
Yep.
What happens if there's a tie? And what happens, is there a difference in the county council's use of electronic meetings than our, like, if there's not mentioned, they'll revert to the town's policy? And we have a policy for that. Would they just follow the town's policy, or is there another policy for the municipality?
You mean for meetings?
Yeah, if they have to have an electronic meeting.
But basically, we would probably have to change because of COVID or whatever, they're gonna be under the same restrictions, right? So it would be, if we have to go totally virtual, they would have to go as well, right? Because right now, when we have our joint committees that we have now, we sort of decide on, like, police advisory is one, so we have public members, and whether, we had some virtually, one or two, I think, virtually, and, but then when we were allowed to come back, we tried to have it. So basically, we almost follow the same rules.
Hopefully we can reach consensus on some things without getting
Yeah.
having to change policy.
I think that the most important thing about this is that we're quickly running out of time, right? And the thing is, we extensively, jointly advertise for citizen memberships. And we only got 2, essentially. And so, we sort of, Tyler, Pulley from the municipality, and I talked about it, and we essentially drew straws, who was gonna, which citizen member we were gonna appoint, right? So, that's basically, so.
It could be potentially a lot of work if they've got to do Weymouth, Tiverton, Zoom.
All the.
Yeah, all the villages are supposed to be, and so hopefully they'll come in under our umbrella. If they don't, now I heard that Westport said no, they didn't want to, and wanted to go on their own. Well, if they want to go on their own, we're not gonna hang around and wait for them, right? So, and that goes with any of the other villages. But I think, we know the 2 municipal units and Dart are solid on board, so.
Okay. So can we have a motion, number 1 here? So we'll put that forward to adopt the terms of reference.
So moved.
Second. Seconder to that?
Second.
Any more discussion on the terms of reference? If none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion carried.
Okay, so motion number 2 and motion number 3 are actually recommendations from the committee of the whole, right? Because we discussed it at committee of the whole. So, Leslie and I had put a discussion about how we were going to do this report because it was, she said it should have been in the committee of the whole report. I said, well, only half of it is going to be recommendation from the committee of the whole. So that's why we've done it this way. So, both of those motions are, one is to rescind, and number 2 needs 2/3 majority in order to pass.
We discussed it, but we said at that meeting. So,
Sorry, I'm just laughing at something unrelated.
Yeah.
okay, someone put that motion forward. This was discussed as it said at the committee of the whole, so. Nobody wants to put it?
So moved.
Seconder, and any discussion on that? We're not firing you, Paul, it's just, that was a
No.
mutual agreement between the 2.
I just want to move my own
Yeah.
recommendation, getting us doing some work.
All those in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None. So the third motion was to appoint Councilor Turnbull to the accessibility.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? None. Motion carried. Number 4, motion to appoint Jack Gajier. Is he related to the goalie?
Javier?
Yeah, Gajier.
You'll have to ask him.
Yeah.
With Jackie, so I think it's a lady.
Oh, okay. Oh, it is Jackie, yeah, sorry. So I'm gonna put that motion forward as a citizen rep. It's nice to have somebody step forward, so that's.
Make that motion.
Second. Council Turnbull, or, somebody, all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Any nays? None. So she'll get a letter or something? Or
Yeah, I'll draft her some correspondence.
correspondence.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Okay, into the reports. CAO's report.
All right, so, under COVID-19, that seems to be highlight of our life lately. So on Wednesday, the 29th of September, the Premier and Mr. Thompson and Dr. Strang announced final details of the administration's proof of full vaccination protocol, which goes into effect as phase 5 begins on Monday, October 4th, which is today. So basically, proof of vaccination, anyone 12 or older who's not fully vaccinated will not be able to access discretionary, recreational, or non-essential activities with minimal exceptions, business meetings, and other activities in the workplace when they involve people who regularly work together and where the general public is not present unless it's in a rental space, and legislatively required meetings where public participation cannot be done virtually, such as municipal council meetings where citizens have a democratic right to participate, are exempt from the proof of vaccination.
So I guess the question right there is, if we have a delegation, but they're uncomfortable, we have to accommodate. Like, if they're uncomfortable coming here tonight because of the vaccine, then I guess we could accommodate by saying we'll do it by Zoom or something. That's a question that popped into my head. I say, yeah, I want to speak to council, but I don't want to come here.
They can come.
Yeah, they can come, but if they're not comfortable with coming, it would be, I think we would have to accommodate them somehow, probably. I don't,
Technically, we
do by Zoom. Yeah.
Basically with the technology that we have in place now,
Yeah.
we could set up, then this either Zoom in or Skype in, and they could be on the screen for us, and they'll be able to see all of us, right? And they can make the presentation. So we do have the ability to do that if that seemed to be the case.
Yeah.
But basically, what this exemption is so that we don't have to ask everybody that comes to the doors to the council meeting for proof of vaccination.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, under phase 5, there will no longer be a requirement for physical distance. There will no longer be gathering limits for events hosted by a business organization. The informal gathering limits of 25 people indoors and 50 outdoors will remain in place. Masks will still be required. The proof of full vaccination is a requirement. And then talking about border restrictions and otherwise, the only restrictions that will remain in place for the general population are those related to the management of COVID-19 cases. For example, people with symptoms must still get tested, isolate while they wait for their results, and continue to isolate if they test positive. So our protocol for town hall is we're going to continue with the same protocol that we've had in place since the 31st of July. and wear masks, and we're even gonna suggest that people still social distance, physical distance, even though it's not required, but, and, at this point, the whole proof of vaccination is not really an essential service as far as the downstairs administration. So that doesn't affect the clientele or the people that walk through the door paying the bills and that stuff. So.
I just read an article, actually sitting here, and there's a doctor, an infectious disease expert out west, telling people, write down on a piece of paper why you're not getting the vaccine and why you should. And it will, and she feels it will help people realize that the vaccine is important. Write it down, write down why you're not getting it, and write the pros of why you should get it. And telling people to do that instead of just swirling it around in their heads and getting confused.
Okay, so the next item is Decker's Trail sign. So the Decker's Trail sign has been installed by Public Works. It's located on the corner of Montague Road and St. George Street. It faces the location of the former home.
Very complimentary compliments.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah, I contacted the family. The sister wanted to know when, she had called some time ago, inquiring about the sign, wanted to know when it was going to be put up or if we were actually going to put it up. I said, yes, we were, and he said, well, can you inform me when it is installed? So that was one of the first things that I did after I found out that it had been installed. And I think I've seen her posts on Facebook, positive things. So, and the designer of the sign, I think he's pleased as well how it turned out. So,
Have a nice day. That's what he always said.
yeah. So on the Macintosh Racket Park, I reached out to the Macintosh family, Linda, concerning the installation of the sign, and as of writing of my report, and as of today, I've not had a response. So. The ministerial mandate letter to the Municipal Affairs and Housing Minister John Moore. So basically, I just reported on what was outstanding and what was relating mainly to municipalities. And there it says, within the first 90 days of your mandate, prepare a timeline for completion of all tasks below over the next 4 years. The initial timelines are to be updated quarterly thereafter. So the renegotiation of the memorandum of understanding with the municipalities, and that's been on the books for 2 or 3 years anyway, isn't it?
Oh, at least, yeah.
Include funding for municipal roads as an item of discussion when renegotiating the memorandum of understanding. So I think the Conservative government has been listening to the towns, especially towns' concerns about not being treated fairly when it comes to roads. And so hopefully double the equalization payment for the first year until a new memorandum of understanding can be reached. So I guess you can read into that is for the first year, and he's hoping within this first year that the memorandum can be reached. I also read into that if the memorandum of understanding is not reached, then that should continue until such time. So I'm reading into it, and I'm not sure whether which is good news. And work with the Housing Commission to implement the recommendations of the 2021 Affordable Housing Report, and to develop the full inventory of lands owned and identify the areas that could be used for housing. consider where the land is available and where there's a need for housing stock with affordable housing and general residential purposes. And the last bullet is funny, interesting. Within the first 6 months of your mandate, undertake a review of the Municipal Act and municipal charters, including their size and scope, and the concept of shared services and regional service authorities with the goal of refining the delivery and governance model for all municipalities in the province. So that's a new take on amalgamation.
When I read that, I said, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because we've just gone through, they're just redeveloping the MGA.
Yeah.
And now they're looking at charters.
Well, you see,
We have a town charter, and they could come in and say, we're gonna lose that charter.
no, I think what he meant, the town, HRM has their own charter.
Yeah.
All the rest of us fall under the Municipal Government Act, right? So, anyway.
So, because they brought it up, and that they're going to support the recommendations of the 2021 Affordable Housing Report, can we now send our drafted letter asking how we access those other funds?
I had Alan tonight, and that was one of the things I was gonna ask, yeah. But that along with sending a letter to Dry County and Hope, anyway, well.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, okay, yeah, that's it.
So, anyway, the entire letter is placed on council's agenda and correspondence, so I don't put the whole thing, so,
Sure.
because there was more there, and, so the letter to Minister Orr reads the fire protection rate for DPE Regional High School. So basically, I sent a letter to Minister Orr requesting he direct his staff to address this issue that has been outstanding for over 15 months. The letter has been copied to Premier Houston and our MLA, Jill Balser, and there's been no response at this time.
We provide fire protection for those schools, and we don't get paid for it. In other communities, they do. So it should be fair across the province.
So, the way I look at it, they can't have it both ways.
Yeah.
Right? The province will pay us a fire protection rate on the elementary school because they own it, right? It's owned by the province of Nova Scotia. But because the land that the regional high school is on belongs to the town of Digby, they won't pay it. So that's why we instituted the fire protection rate, which includes all exempt properties, right? So we were hoping that we were going to get paid. Now they said, no, we're not going to pay it because they've amended the Education Act to say that anything that's being used by centers of education are exempt from paying that.
Turn around and send them a bill for use of the land?
Rentals.
Yeah.
They tend to go put you like Dwayne Kelly, go put the chains and padlocks on the doors in high school.
He's renting for a long time.
Where you got it dark or plan to.
Yeah.
Bring it for me. So, anyway, it's, so hopefully, maybe we'll, get some response. In addition to my report, I have had an email correspondence with Jill Balser's EA concerning setting up a meeting, sort of an informal meeting, she called it, with Jill. And originally, we were hoping that we were going to be able to have her here tonight, either at 5 o'clock before the meeting or during the meeting. And fortunately, she had to be in Halifax, so we're trying to work out through another couple of weeks. And we got,
Yeah, and we should have that on I don't know if we can do it on a quarterly or every 6 months, have her in, talk about issues. Yeah. That had been discussed in the past with others, and they didn't come through, so try to make that happen. Anything else, Tom?
No, it's everything in my report.
Any questions for Tom? Moving on to the recreation report. Lots of fundraising going on.
Yes.
Anything to add?
The one thing that we are working on is hopefully will soon come to be done is the telescope.
Their famous telescope.
Well, there's a couple in outside of Annapolis that have been agreed to work on it for us. There's a couple parts that they're and they will install it for us. They have the exact same telescope.
Whereabouts?
I think it is in
Granville Beach somewhere.
No, but I mean,
Oh.
where to install the telescope.
It will be at the airport.
Where we talked about.
That we're talking about, yeah.
And so many years ago.
Yeah. But, I mean, that telescope was supposed to be on the school when they built it.
Yeah, yeah.
And, so there, it's required, and, so, another addition of.
It's old enough that Galileo probably used it.
Well,
Actually, there was just a program on CBC, and they call it the Project Dark Skies. And from Clare almost to Yarmouth is one of the best places in the world
Yeah.
to see the night sky because there's still low light pollution.
Well,
And they're really trying, it's sort of like World UNESCO, they're really trying to start to promote it.
Well, this telescope, discussing, well, community uses schools, we've discussed it
Yes.
here, discussed it with some of the teachers up there, and I think some of them just get so frustrated.
I can't believe that it went so far, and then the school suddenly realized, oh, we're gonna have students off school property doing, yeah, what did you think? And then they love it.
Anyway,
Kind of crazy.
somebody else that, is, really into astrophotography and all that is Jason, the nurse practitioner.
yes,
He might be something that he just drove across Canada on vacation, that's what he did, right across Canada. He just put out one he took down in Clare, Yarmouth way. And he's got tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment for that, so he might be somebody that, if there's going to be a group or a team putting together, look at this, he might be someone really interested.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll mention Sharon.
Yeah, and if I run into him, I'll listen to him.
Sure.
Tell you, he called Friday night, Jason, was it Friday night, wasn't it?
Yes.
He called me, town agreed to allow him to put his trailer up the town compound, so he went up there to get something out of it, he called me, and the crew left and walked him in. Yeah. Yeah, I laughed, and I said, okay, we'll get you. Any other questions on the dark report? None? All those in favor? Oh, no, motion needed.
The electronic signs being repaired. How come it's not mounted somewhere, still on wheels? That sign that's in front.
I'm not quite sure. I'll have to get you the right answer before.
Oh, okay.
Data.
Yeah, the same.
Anything?
I wasn't able to attend the meeting, but, that was a report that was sent to me, so.
Any idea how the gentlemen they had for the summer doing some of the work?
They were pleased.
They were pleased with the work they got. Good.
And they were pleased with the lighthouse tour.
Any idea if there's like preparedness for the room levy? Is that for January or is that for April? Or when the plan was to sort of kick it into gear?
Our plan is April 1st.
Okay.
I got weird ideas about that room levy and RBIC, our community coordinator, all this, that I think over the winter we should have maybe have data come in and talk about it. Just ideas, you know. Yeah.
The thing right now, Jeff and I sort of put on the back burner until the fall,
Yeah.
where fall is upon us. So I sent, I was reading over the package this afternoon, seeing about that. So I sent Jeff an email, told him that we needed to get started ASAP, on, because we have to pass the bylaw, and they have to pass a bylaw, we have to pass a bylaw, but it's essentially gonna have to be the exact same bylaw. The only difference is that their name on theirs and our name will be on ours, but it'll essentially be the same bylaw. So there'll probably be a meeting or two involved, but,
Yeah, because there is, I won't call it an oversight committee, but there is a committee that needs to be formed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That acts between the municipal governments and the body that gets this money, so. yeah. Okay, nothing else?
Just the town levy, they're asking that it be started January 1st, 2020.
2022, yeah.
2022, yeah.
Yeah. So we have to get together and have a conversation.
They're asking, our plan has always been for April 1st, to correspond with our fiscal
Right.
years, and that gives us more time to get, once we get the bylaws in place, and then we have to, like, the mayor said, we have a committee that has to be struck, and, and actually processes how the money is gonna be, how many times we're gonna go to collect the money and all of that, and who's gonna be responsible for this and that. There's some rules around getting the collection of the money.
Because it's really, it's the trust system.
Yeah, essentially it's gonna be down to trust, especially the smaller, accommodations, because they're not gonna have the sophisticated system like, probably the Pines, if you have the whole reservation system, and they'll be able to tell how many people they get involved. There's gonna be some of our units that probably just write them down in a scribbler type thing, or maybe on a computer, but, it will be the honor system for the most part, right? And, so,
Hopefully they understand the importance of, we've never had any focused marketing here for years and years and years. We've been at a disadvantage, so.
My only fear of that whole thing is that, like a lot of those things, they start off with good intentions and really strong, and they do really, really great things, and then it just sort of falls into a repetitive, that's just what we do, it's just what we do, it's just what we do.
Yeah.
And then people sort of get disgruntled about it.
They do, they don't get the money.
Yeah.
Waste check. What happened to the waste check?
We collected some garbage.
Garbage. Well,
The biggest thing in waste check is the discussion ongoing right now of the elimination of the black bag,
Yeah.
which the discussion around the table has basically been, for the most part, I don't think a lot of people would mind because they're already diverting. They've seen, I forget the percentage, they said that they had seen the decline of the black bag.
This one I don't know.
Yeah, there's a very large percentage that people hadn't even used the black bag. And they're kind of finding now that the black bag has sort of become a depository of just unwanted, not that people don't know that they can take it and do something with it.
Yeah.
Oh, just put it in the black bag, right? The magic
Yeah.
black bag. Yeah, so that's kind of the biggest reason why I get rid of it.
Was it,
Yeah.
wasn't, I don't know how to put this tastefully, but wasn't the black bags also for depositing personal hygiene products and like that?
Personal hygiene,
Yeah.
things, yeah. And they,
privacy issue.
Privacy issue.
yeah, and they're finding that there wasn't a big uptake on the use.
Okay.
Like there's not a lot of black bag, well, what few there are
Mhm.
is items that they're kind of having a bit of difficulty sorting.
Okay.
Yeah, and they want to divert a lot more from the landfill, and they think. they
Sure,
can do that.
not force you to do that, yeah.
I think a lot of it was around the IC&I sector, wasn't it?
Yeah.
More so than residential, but, because that's where I think they've been finding it. But, they were talking about wanting to put a new policy and enforcement. And the thing is, they read their own bylaw, including in the bylaw, that ICNI has to use clear bags as well as residential people, right, and ordinary commercial people. And all they gotta do is enforce the bylaw, right? Basically, they don't have to come up with a new
Reinvent.
policy and stuff, right? But
We did put in the newsletter coming up a big thing about waste and garbage and
Yeah.
what to do, who call.
Yeah, the top of it. Yeah, people need to be reminded, everybody gets a little slack once in a while.
It's a good time of year to do it too, people are
Yeah.
cleaning out the garage and stuff.
I don't know if I told you the story, this was years ago when they first came in, the waste check police were following the garbage truck around. And Sarah sometimes didn't understand where things went. So they picked up my bags and the waste check, two ladies came to the door and said, we found this toast in the recycle bag. I said, oh, I've been looking for that. Anyway, they were very pleasant. They had, nice to listen. I understand I'm on council. This just happens sometimes, just happens.
Did you blame it was there?
It was actually,
Oh.
but it was, it wasn't malintent. It was just, where did this all stuff all go? Anyway, all good. Okay, moving on to new business. Oh, the letter.
yeah, the letter and that's.
Yeah, correspondence, read it over, yeah.
Yeah, for information.
Move on to new business. Digby Wesley Church Trunk and Treat. Just, yeah, it
So
is.
basically, it's a repeat of what they done last year,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to make sure that, before I said yes or no, that council didn't have any issues with what went on last year. I didn't hear of any, but I just wanted to make sure.
It went well from what I heard. So.
Yeah, that was, actually, what I heard too is people like the fact that there were fewer at the door.
Yes.
Because of COVID.
Yes, yeah.
That's what I heard, I don't know if anybody else heard that. And I usually get 170 or 80 at my door, and I was 120, but I had chips deep for weeks. But that was COVID and more of these things going on.
I didn't know how many kids I was gonna have, so I had like 6 boxes of chocolate bars. Last 4 kids got a half box each. They did great. They'll be back next year.
Yeah.
We had twice as many people as you are this year.
The word got out, go. Yeah, no, I think that's probably the way things are gonna go more and more all the time. Yeah. Just sweet. A letter here from Mary Sonia, wanting to do something for, this just came to us tonight, so grad party, or grad fundraising.
Declare a
Yeah,
conflict of interest, being
Yeah.
a sister.
yeah, you should.
Yep.
Just, you know that lesson?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, if she can do this and follow the COVID protocols that are in place.
I like it.
Yeah. Nice.
And she came, it was Thursday or Friday, she came to see me. And I said, no, you just put it in writing, what it is that you want, and what you plan to do to comply with the COVID regulations of the day, because they can change. And at that time, we were in phase 5, so although this event will be in phase 5 unless they roll back. So, but anyway, it seems like we've got everything been covered, and the other thing that she left out, she didn't say what the date was, and I contacted her. And, I think she was talking with Leslie as well, but proposed date is the 19th of November from 5 to 8 p.m. And then it could be the next day, could be Saturday if the storm is on.
So we write her a letter just saying yes and just remind her the protocols need to be in place.
Yeah, I just wanted
Shit,
to,
yeah.
I mean, technically she's supposed to have anybody that uses that needs a permit.
Yeah.
That's sort of a special events permit, which we can certainly issue. Council wants to raise the fee, they can certainly do that as well, which I would recommend.
Yeah,
It's a fundraiser, basically just cover council and the town, we issued the permit, and it's legal if something unfortunately happens, but.
Yeah, put some responsibility on it. And as far as, yeah, I would suggest we waive the fee. It's a fundraiser for students, so
Yeah.
I don't think we, what's everybody else think? You wanted a motion, Tom, or just direction? Whoops. I don't think you
Just
do.
let her know that the Digby Area Theatre Society prefers being called DATS, not darts.
When I first read that, darts.
Unless we changed it this month, I missed that meeting too, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, dollar, yeah, support our efforts.
So, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's a sensitive, if council needs to issue or the appropriate permit and waive the fee.
Yeah.
J3 housing, yes, I put that on there because when I read John Moore's letter, I think it's time for us to have that letter go off.
Yeah.
To the premier, and I also like to send a letter to Tri-County Housing and to, what's the whole, all the, up in the valley.
Oh, I'm Scott.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now what that is, that,
Greenwood one or the
mhm.
Kentville one?
Oh, sorry about this, I had it right here, I'll bring it up. Don Thomas and I were having a conversation about it today. Lori. Anyway, I'll find out who it is, but just a letter going, hey, listen to Tri-County, and these people remind us that we have all the same housing challenges in Digby. Dawn and some others feel like they're not looking this way, even though there is, like Nancy Robinson's working hard. So I like to talk to Tom, draft some kind of letter, just send it off to both of them. Just CC to both of them, CC to the council. Just
Last
more,
meeting, sorry. In the last meeting that they had, there was kind of a consensus that because they had developed their plans so far, that maybe, because we talked about the emergency shelter, that plan should come back to a body like this, where we should actually say, here's the building, here's the cost of the building, here's the cost of building the building, here's where we're gonna put it, and say to Jill,
here you go, find
go find some money for us.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, anyway, so, did anybody see the draft that Lennon was gonna go to Premier Rankin? Already forgot his name. We'll send it out to him, the letter was drafted.
Not ranking.
No, not Rankin now, but it was
Rankin.
It was Rankin, then we gotta go to.
Just gotta remember to change the name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I went,
Sorry.
You're elected. Left it.
yeah, just scratch that right over top. Anyway, we'll get a draft of that, it's about housing in general. Housing's in the news every day, everywhere.
Yeah. Even Sweden.
Everywhere, it's across the world. It's a need
Yeah.
everywhere.
Can we get a copy of the bylaw or whatever they have in Halifax about people that can put apartments in their backyards and then they're...
The laneway bylaw?
Yeah, the laneway bylaw.
Which
Just take a look at it. I mean, there's a few I know up by our area, there's a few homes that have look like full homes in the back of the yards, and of course Leo has one that, he's not supposed to run it, I don't think he is. But there's a perfect location for people, and I think Halifax has done it, so it may be something we want to consider, I don't know.
Well, one of the things we talked about here over the years is getting denser.
Yeah.
Yeah, getting denser, yeah.
We're pretty dense.
One thing that our land use bylaw does not address is what people call the granny suites or whatever. Actually, we get Leslie had a request, and we may be getting an application where somebody wants to convert the upper story of the garage into an apartment.
That's exactly what that Halifax bylaw addressed.
And so under our current bylaw, we can't do it, right? It's against our bylaw.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that we would definitely, when we start to do a review, look at that. If you want that to happen,
Yeah.
then we need to include that in the bylaw. It's either that, or we just close our eyes and let it happen, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the
That's
best way to do it.
I think we should start reviewing it. It's a painful process, but
Yeah.
long and drive. I think we need to.
There might be quite a few people that wanna turn that over into housing, some that are.
Well, if they've got, there's some that's got garages and with the second story or whatever on, them, right now they use them for storage or whatever.
Yeah.
But if they can convert them into a dwelling unit and they've got, I think as long as they've got room for the parking that would be required for that extra unit and things like that, then basically I don't see any issue with giving permits for that to happen, other than the fact that right now we can't issue a permit because it doesn't allow for it in the bylaw.
There's another issue for the accessibility committee. If you look at any of the rental units on the street that are above, none of them are accessible.
Yeah.
Zero. I can't think of one on the ground level.
And it's a.
And
How do you make?
There's a reason why there isn't any on the ground level.
Yeah.
Because our bylaw says that because downtown, it has to be commercial on the first level, or in the front, like old IGA or where Warfare Alley was.
Yeah.
Like the front, 50% front. If it's only one story, then you divide it 50% and 50%. Residential in the back and commercial, is to give that commercial frontage, which basically the downtown is supposed to be our commercial center. And that's why it's sort of addressed that way.
Because if you didn't, you don't have a commercial district.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. Too.
Yeah.
You force everything.
But that's why that Halifax and other cities and towns are addressing it in their downtown by having all the storefronts on the main level and having a place to go in and build them up. Of course, they're using elevators and things like that, which basically makes them accessible at that point, right? I mean, here, only being one story high, and an elevator isn't wouldn't pay for itself.
Well, we have parking garages on the back too, where you can just park them.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a challenge in that.
Is there any update on the only thing that's going on at the convent at all? Is that?
No.
No, they're just paying their taxes and everything, it's all,
Someone
still owns it?
I don't think it's been on the tax list.
No, I think they did come in and clean it up.
Yeah.
It's for sale.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, it's weird that.
The lawn keeps
That
being moved.
sign or anything, yeah.
People looked at it,
Yeah.
just said there's just far too much work for that building. But,
Yeah. Too bad.
Fantastic
Okay.
law.
Huh?
Fantastic law.
Oh, beautiful. I went down those.
I mean, it goes street to street.
Yeah.
And right down to Union Street.
Right.
So, you almost subdivide that and you have two buildings, lots,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, last thing on the agenda for in camera is town crier. Our town crier is retired. We just found that out today.
No.
So, yeah, that was, Peter Davis, so, gonna get a letter sent off to them. They invited me up Saturday, I think at 3, Leslie, was it?
Yes.
Say a few
Yeah.
words. So I'm gonna go up, say a few words, I guess, Saturday afternoon. We'll send them a thank you letter, and then if we want a town crier, we're gonna have to look around for one. Town crier, usually we buy them for special events.
Yeah.
What did he get paid? What's town crier get paid?
I don't know. Did we?
Much.
It wasn't much.
So much, yeah, per event, and a lot of times when he was,
Yeah.
it's like if Scott Days wanted them, or
Yeah.
whatever, they paid him to be
Yeah.
there, right, they paid that fee, right? So he was representing, he was town dignity, town crier.
Yeah.
So how long was C.R. Town Crier?
He took over when Windsor, Floyd.
Smith.
Yeah.
Floyd Smith.
I was just wondering if you could give them a plaque or something with their logo on it. I don't know the years, right?
No, I know. See if you can find it. Would we be able to get a plaque by Saturday?
Yeah, you could.
Could you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can find it, we do, and I can hand it.
Yeah.
See,
Odd that we had to, the only thing odd about it is that we had to find out from the town from that.
Yeah.
Right, he never contacted us, so he was never, apparently it's due to health reasons, so.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just found it a little odd there.
Yep.
Nice people.
Yeah.
Okay, can we have a motion to win camera? Okay, second. Okay, all those agree that we win camera? All in favor of us going home?
Oh, yeah.